Hello and welcome back to the Academy. I know many people out there are already familiar with 5th edition, so this video is going to be a brief overview of the items that have changed between standard 5th edition rules and Everyday Heroes. Now in Everyday Heroes, your levels cap out at 10. There are more than a few reasons for this, but as a GM, the reason I focus on most is the fact that when things advance beyond level 10, they tend to get a bit wonky. In Everyday Heroes, your armor no longer modifies your defense. Instead, if you are about to take a fatal blow, you may attempt an armor save. Now when dealing with armor, there are two values to keep in mind. There's your armor value, which is your AV, and the attacking weapon's penetration value, or PV. Now if your AV is equal to or greater than the weapon's PV, you can make an armor save. If your AV is less than the weapon's PV, your armor is of no benefit in this situation. An armor save's DC is equal to 10 or half of the damage dealt by the attack, whichever is greater. If the hero is proficient with the armor, they may add their proficiency bonus to the roll. Otherwise, it's just an unmodified D20 roll. If the armor is damaged, the roll is made at disadvantage. Now, if the roll fails, you take full damage. If, however, the roll is successful, you take no damage, but your armor is now considered to be damaged. Backgrounds give your character various ability score increases, as well as other benefits and perks. Inanimate objects have an armor value that is used to determine what type of attacks can be used to destroy the item. Next is bulk. Instead of using weight to determine your carrying capacity, each item is given a bulk rating based on that item's general size and weight. Now, Burst Fire, a fully automatic weapon with the Burst Fire option, can expend additional ammunition to deal an additional die's worth of damage at the cost of making the attack at disadvantage. The number listed with the burst value denotes the amount of rounds expended when using Burst Fire. You must declare before the attack that you are using the Burst Fire option. Everyday Heroes has a very fun and dynamic chase mechanic that I'll feature in a separate video, owing to the fact that it's mildly complex and deserves more than just a paragraph or two explaining it. Companion rules. Various characters have access to companions now, such as the Hunter or Engineer, that can be used in combat, and these companions each have their own sets of rules. There are some new condition modifiers that have been added. These new conditions are burning, distracted, and intoxicated. Now we're going to talk about cover. Instead of adding a modifier to your defense, cover now gives you a set defense value. Half cover gives you a defense of 16, and full cover is a defense of 20. Also, in some situations, you can attack through cover. So next is critical miss. Rolling a 1 on an attack roll is a critical failure and always misses your target. Damage types. So some of the damage types have changed, and there are also some new damage types that have been added, like ballistics, explosives, and arcane. Your defense replaces your armor class and is based on the hero's primary ability score plus their archetype's defense bonus. Armor does not modify this number at all. Now there's dice steps. The steps when increasing or decreasing the size of a die are D4, D6, D8, D10, and D12. Dice can't be moved above a D12 or below a D4. Any movement type that doubles the normal movement cost, such as climbing, crawling, or swimming, is considered to be difficult movement. Disarming. When you have a free hand or are wielding a melee weapon, you may attempt to disarm an opponent. The attacker makes an athletics check against their opponent's acrobatics or athletics check. If the attacker wins, their opponent drops their weapon. If the attacker has a free hand, however, they may instead take their opponent's weapon. Dive for cover. This is a reaction available to everyone, used primarily to avoid explosions and other area of effect attacks. When you dive for cover, You may move up to your movement speed in an attempt to reach the nearest safe location. If you get out of the affected area or behind total cover, you take no damage. Expertise is a mechanic granted through many classes which double your proficiency bonus to certain skills. Explosives. These weapons create an area of effect. When an explosive detonates, anyone within the area may take a dive for cover reaction, if they still have their reaction available. Falling. The damage for falling in Everyday Heroes is a D8 per 10 feet, as opposed to a D6 in other games. Feats. These are a standard part of character creation and are generally awarded on even-numbered levels. Feats come in 3 primary types. First, there are the basic and advanced, which are both considered to be minor feats. Then there are your major feats. Basic feats raise ability scores, grant proficiencies, and other basic bonuses, and can be taken multiple times. Advanced feats provide more powerful abilities or new talents for heroes, and each feat can only be taken once. Now, major feats are significantly more powerful and are equivalent to 2 basic feats. Firearms. Due to the existence of firearms, there are some new rules related to their use, such as armor and piercing values, as well as rules related to rate of fire and even properties of the ammunition itself. With a lack of healing, the role of first aid has increased in this setting. Using a medicine check, you can stabilize an ally at 0 hit points, smother the flames on a burning ally, or end the blind and deaf condition caused by a weapon. With a first aid kit, you may actually give an ally back 1 hit point when stabilizing them, give advantage on a save versus poison, or allow a combatant to make a save to end an ongoing effect from a drug or poison. Friendly fire. If you critically miss with a ranged attack while firing into close combat, you may accidentally hit an ally instead of the enemy. Player characters in Everyday Heroes are generally referred to as heroes instead of characters. Multiclassing is done using special multiclassing feats, which are considered to be major feats. There's a multiclassing feat for each archetype as well as for each individual class. Professions represent your hero's job, and during character creation provide many benefits, such as determining your character's wealth, as well as some ability score boosts, proficiencies, and even some iconic equipment related to the profession. Proficiencies are a broad category. For example, basic proficiency covers the use of basic weapons and armor. The same can be said of advanced, historical, and improvised as well. Everyday Heroes does not use tool proficiencies at all. Race and species. The core rules contain no mechanics for anything other than vanilla humans. You can find rules in the vault for augmented or mutated humans, though. Reloading. The mechanic for reloading your weapon is going to be determined by the weapon you are using. Resting. There are now rules for receiving medical care while resting. During a short rest, a character with the use of a first aid kit can make a medicine check to help improve their healing. On a success, you may reroll each hit die spent to restore hit points. Second Wind is an ability that all characters now have access to, and allows the hero to spend up to half of their hit dice to recover hit points during a chase or combat. Skills. There are now 22 skills used in the core rules, some of which are different in an attempt to reflect the more modern setting. Some examples of these would be natural sciences, social sciences, and even security. Special attacks are aggressive actions that don't include an attack roll, but instead use a different mechanic to determine the outcome, but can be made whenever a normal attack could be made. Suppressive fire would be one example of this. With an action, a combatant sprays an area with bullets, endangering anyone within that area. To take this action, the combatant must have a semi-automatic or fully automatic weapon. Then they must designate an area within the weapon's range to be affected. For a semi-automatic, the area is 10 feet wide and takes 8 rounds. With a fully automatic, the area is increased to 30 feet wide and consumes 20 rounds. Suffocation. A hero can hold their breath for an amount of minutes equal to their Constitution modifier, with a minimum of 1 minute. Once their breath runs out, they must make an endurance check at the end of each turn. On a failed check, they are reduced to 0 hit points and must make a Constitution save at the end of each turn. If they fail 3 of these saves, they die immediately. Talents are special abilities offered by backgrounds, professions, archetypes, classes, and feats. Player-set traps have a more formalized set of rules that allow the player to use an ability score contest to determine the success of the trap. Unarmed damage is considered to be a basic weapon and deals 1d4 damage by default. Vehicles. There's a system in place governing rules for driving vehicles and their use in combat and chases. Wealth. All heroes have a wealth level and can afford any item if their price level is at or below their wealth level. Currency isn't something that's tracked, except maybe in the purposes of role-playing. Now, these rules are a bit more in-depth than what I have covered here, but this should be enough information to have you ready to play a game without feeling too far out of your depth. Once again, thank you for joining me, and if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any comments or requests, please leave a comment below.